Itemization for Irelia Season 14 is complicated. With basically every item being touched by Riot and multiple new ones getting added, Irelia's item builds vary from those in Season 13. This guy is based on personal play, analysis of top player statistics and League of Legends analytics. Nothing much to say here. You deserve to be reported if you don't build this item on Irelia first. All stats are incredibly helpful for Irelia, and since your Q can trigger on-hit effects, the slow can be applied with Blade Surge as well. You also get bonus damage based on enemy health, which helps cutting down tanks top lane. You are pretty much full build after this item. The only item that I would accept rushing before Borg might be Wit's End. Against a heavy AP matchup, Wit's End provides enough MR to counter most matchups handily. And the newly added 20% tenacity also work great against CC heavy mages, although you don't get the 40-80 anymore, which is important to remember. What you do get is another on-hit effect, this time as magic damage, which then again can help against enemies who build armor. Terminus bow is an incredible offensive item I oftentimes build after Wit's End if I feel like a bit more resistance against AP might be good, but I don't want to go full defense like Maw or Spirit Visage. Not only do you get another magic damage on-hit effect, but you do get the following. I will try to explain this item as basic as I can, okay? So each attack grants you an on-hit effect, and the attacks alternate between light and dark attacks for like a maximum of 5 seconds. And you can stack those attacks up to 3 times. So after 6 auto attacks, you have it maxed. The light hits grant you bonus resistance, so bonus magic resistance and bonus armor to a maximum of 24 based on your level. So 18 to 24 based on level. The dark hits are like the offensive version. They grant you armor penetration and magic penetration for a maximum of 30%, because it grants you 10% per hit, 3 hits, 30%. The LoL wiki also explains that the on-hit effect benefits from lifesteal, but I was unable to test that in game, so you would just have to take that as a given. Sundered Sky just feels like an item made for Irelia. While not being the most important stat, Irelia benefits from ability haste. The really good thing about Sundered Sky is it automatically crits on your first hit and heals you afterwards. Survivability and lifesteal are keys to make Irelia incredibly strong in teamfights, and you've all seen that one Irelia dashing through enemies seeming unkillable. That's basically because of these items. That's why one of the hardest counters is just tanks who rush Bramble Vest or Thornmail, which counters Borg, for example, and in general against tanks, Sundered Sky is just another perfect pick because of the crit automatic effect. I love Death Dance. Stat-wise, it is a bit stronger than Sundered Sky. It just provides you with armor instead of health. This does not mean, by the way, that you should only build one or the other. Both together work great. Death Stance effect plays perfectly in the aforementioned survivability. Put simply, 30% of damage taken during fights gets stored and is then taken afterwards over the next 3 seconds as true damage, meaning it helps against burst damage. For example, if Viegar ults you, 30% of the damage is taken, stored, and then given to you piece by piece in 3 seconds. But if you manage to kill the target in these 3 seconds, the 30% damage are being removed completely and you get healed instead for 50% bonus 80. Meaning if you are able to kill targets, you take less damage and get more healing afterwards. Sterak. With the Season 14 changes, Sterak now brings 20% tenacity. CC and lockdown are major issues to Irelia since you have no time to heal up with other items. Just remember what I just told you about Death Dance and you having to kill your targets quickly to get the healing and remove the damage. And there Sterak provides you with the extra time needed. with the tenacity and the shield you receive when being low health. Another shielding item is Immortal Shield Bow. In Season 13, Shield Bow was one of my favorite items on Irelia, since you got the extra lifesteal, huge offensive power, and the shield if things got hairy. Unfortunately, in Season 14, I think Sterak is just the better choice in most situations. If you snowball out of your mind early, it can be really strong, but people, especially on higher elo, just understand the importance of a Bramble Vest or anti-heal in any form, so just stacking these items is not as effective. I honestly believe GA is a little overrated. Unless you have a team playing around you, you should always ask yourself, do I have the ability to survive after being revived, or will I just die again? For example, if you're just like solo laning, I don't think there's a huge upside to it unless your trades are very, very close. And in team fights, is the team there to push forward when you're being revived, or will you just be CC'd and die again? You do realize that this topic of heavy crowd control, meaning stuns, slows, binds, is very important, which is why tenacity is so important on Irelia. But yeah, always remember that before buying GA. If you're rich, of course go ahead, buy GA. After you die, sell it, get a new item, also works fine. Okay, lastly I want to name some honorable defensive mentions. Frozen Heart has become one of my favorite defensive items in this season. If you are afraid of enemy ADCs or champions with high attack speed like a Fed, Yasuo or Yoni, Frozen Heart is really a friend. Then Chainsword and Thornmail both provide anti-heal. As an Irelia player, you know how devastating anti-heal can be, so don't shy away from building it yourself. If you don't have a team who builds it already, of course. When deciding between the two, meaning between Chainsword and Thornmail, always ask yourself the question whether you are attacking the target or it attacks you more. Especially in team fights, good players can just avoid attacking you if you have a Thornmail and still have huge amounts of lifesteal. So if you do the hitting more, get the Chainsword. And lastly, Jak'Sho. I really enjoyed the item in Season 13, but I didn't build it this season so far at all. On paper, it's still one of the best defensive items for Irelia, I think. If you feel like you can survive a teamfight long enough to stack up the Jak'Sho stacks, it provides great defensive option against mixed attacking teams, but I just preferred other items, I guess. And then there are a few items that appear good on paper but are normally not built, like Experimental Hexblade and Trinity Force. There's just better options. And I think like the effect of Experimental Hexblade seems cool, of like having very high attack speed when using your ultimate, but you already have high attack speed as an Irelia, and you should be able to kill your targets without your ult. If you just wait for your R to be up every time, you're doing something wrong. And then again, in general, remember, if you are ahead, feel free to build defensive. Your level advantage and skills provide you with higher damage in general, so building defensive is fine. And if you're behind, I would personally recommend to rather try and all in on damage to get kills and then fight back. After going through all these items and situations, I think it is important to mention that this is still preference. I almost never build Titanic Hydra, for example, although there are very strong upsides to it. I would recommend just going into the client and building an item page for Irelia, basically name different stages and write down for what stages each item is, and I hope that then you will find a way to pick the right items for the right situations and have very successful games. Good luck.